when I'm not suspiciously counting the number of items in the person's shopping cart ahead of me in the express lane. I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Well, it's blues playing time now. Question, how about something like a 9th fret to the 12th fret fretting of the E or similar to the B? I hate the bar chord A shape for all the reasons you mentioned in the video, but this version with the pinky able to switch from the octave to the major 7 to the minor 7 and it pinches growing on me. Thanks for the videos. Great way to start a day. So this is on the video I uploaded the other day about everything you need to know in the key of E, which has a lot of tips on how to use the main chords in the key of E, specifically that B major chord that kind of people stumble over, I guess. So his question was talking about specifically this chord voicing right here. Okay, so you're barring the bottom 4 strings on the 9th fret and getting like your pinky or ring finger on the 12th fret. So in cage chord world, this would be like a G major chord, right? Just the bottom 4, but then move that all the way to the 9th fret. So this is your root note, kind of is how I usually think of it, right? Where this is an E, the 12th fret on the high E string is the octave E, right? So that makes an E major chord. So an alternative voicing for a B major chord would just be to move your pinky to the 7th fret right here. Okay, so B to E instead of B to E. Now, what I have learned a lot in playing tons and tons of gigs where it's just like a duo, like an acoustic guitar and a vocalist, or just playing myself, is you really want to utilize the low E and A strings on your acoustic guitar in that type of setting as often as you can, okay? Now that there isn't a time or a place for these kind of like higher voiced chords, but I think what you'll learn when you actually do like a lot of like live playing, whether it's through a PA or whatever, is that the lower band of the guitar, mainly the E and the A string, is really holding down a lot of the frequency of sound, okay? So you're really kind of reliant on those because, again, most people's voices aren't going to have a ton of low end in them for what we consider low end, right? And you're not playing with like a bass player or a drummer where they can kind of just like hold down that bottom and you can kind of get all fancy up here. So that's why I would actually recommend, if you're having trouble playing like a B major chord, and you're doing just an acoustic version of something with a B major chord, focus more on like a B power chord, where it's, you know, either the 2nd fret of the A string and the 4th fret of the D and G strings. That's gonna actually get you along better than maybe even this higher chord voicing right here, right? Because if we're doing like an E, A, B progression, right? E, A, B, E, right? Instead of E, A. Okay, so there's a difference there, and even just kind of like in this setting where it's very controlled, it might not sound super different, but I promise you when you're out in open space through a PA, you're gonna want the low end where rooting your chords on the low E or A string is really gonna help you out. So when in doubt, err on the side of some of the lower chord voicings, even if you have to simplify them to more power chord stuff, rather than maybe full-on bar chord things. Now, that being said, there's definitely a time and a place for the higher voice stuff. You can definitely slide them into chord progressions, right? One of my favorite ones that I play live is one of my songs that I kind of do it where it's, you know, real heavy on like the lower strings, right? Get to that high voicing in between, I think you can kind of slide it in there and it doesn't really take away from like holding and supporting the entire song live, but I would use it sparingly. Another place to use it is to end a song, right? So you're doing that same E, A, B, E, right? That's always a great way to end it. The beautiful thing about this chord voicing is because the root note is on top, where that might not always be the case with a lot of, you know, chord voicings and stuff. It is the case with this particular E major chord voicing. But having it at that higher register is like a little cherry on top of the song. Be like, I'm done, right? But I think it is something to take into consideration. I really crank. You can even see the settings on this guitar right here. It's like the low end is boosted all the way to the top, and like the treble is like cut almost all the way down, because just the way the live sound works, I think that acoustic guitar in that setting, having the low and the low mids boosted, just kind of has more of like an impact, and it sounds more of like a full frequency spectrum sound when it is just an acoustic guitar and a vocal, or an acoustic guitar and something doing the melodic stuff on the high end. Remember, in that situation, your job isn't only just to move the chords around, it's to kind of like provide a rhythm, whether it's something kind of steady. That's why mutes come in handy a lot, even if it's, just keeping that rhythm steady, filling out the low end as much as you can, and then just kind of trying to create the most full frequency experience that you can for the listener. And I think that's kind of like a slept on tip that I don't see as many performers using as, maybe could benefit from. Nice to have a title with the word secrets that actually delivers. Here's one I like. Make an F bar chord, slide it down to an E chord, laying your index finger over your nut, guitar nut. Now slide to any other chord without changing your fingering. I also like playing over a 6/7 progression. Cool sounds. Thanks for posting. Thank you for specifying that it was a guitar nut you're talking about. But yeah, that's a great tip. That's something that I do all the time, right? So you learn an F major chord, it looks like that, right? It's a bar chord first. And then maybe if you go from, let's say that there's a song where it's like F to E to F. When you're first starting to play, you use the fingerings that you're more comfortable with, right? There's that bar chord, and then E major looks like this, where your middle finger leads the way, and then you go back to F. But once you become more efficient at it, it becomes this. Right? This guy right here. This is definitely the voicing that I probably use for E major, actually more so than any other voicing that I would use, unless I start a song on E major. I'll always find myself kind of getting into this form, so this could be something that you might want to practice, just using your ring finger to lead the way, and then you have like a lot more options when you're kind of sliding into other shaped chords, because your hand is set up in this form, which is definitely like super valuable, because I think it's easier to get into lead stuff, playing in between things. It's easier to kind of manipulate the root notes of things and maybe do kind of like walking bass lines a little bit more. Again, a lot of it is contextual. You know what I mean? If someone just says play E major, I'll probably still go tried and true. But contextually, I do think that getting this in your repertoire. Now, you don't necessarily have to lay it over the nut, not like that. I just kind of keep it off and then just have it free agent. Makes things a lot more efficient. And again, I think that's just kind of like a super quick tip that you can kind of use to enhance your playing. And then really think of it as major to minor just by taking your pointer finger right there and then just playing the notes that you're fretting. So the sooner you can start thinking about these shapes being like major and minor, I think that really kind of does open the fretboard up a little bit more. And it just makes you start thinking contextually, because that's one of the biggest problems when you're starting out. It's like you read from a book like, oh, this is how you play a C major chord, right? And this is how you play a G major chord. But again, so much of it is contextual. If you're going from C to G, it probably makes a lot more sense to play a C like this and a G like this. That's why it's funny. It's like when you're a beginner, you're probably given like the most rigid information that doesn't help you that much at the time where you need the most help, right? This C to this G is so much easier, right? I mean, just look at that. Then this C to this G, right? It's kind of funny just thinking about that. But again, it's a lot of stuff to keep track of at first, but be thoughtful about the context in which you're doing things, and eventually you'll find yourself getting better without even having to try.
A jig is exactly the same as a very fast waltz. Exactly! Don't kid yourself.
Oh no, the Jig Police are on my case again. Usually it's only around every St. Patrick's Day where YouTube decides to show some of my how to play Irish music videos a little bit more. And then it's always like, oh, the Jig Police come out in full force with their salty ways, telling me that a jig is just a faster waltz, even when I actually did research on that video. And there are different schools of thought about whatever. A jig can be what you want a jig to be.
Sean, I like your vids, but to be totally honest, your titles, man, they're like borderline clickbaity, so please, if you change that aspect, I'm sure we'll have a growth in regular viewers again. Just my opinion, because there have been times when I myself was pushed back from clicking one of your videos just from looking at the title. So for anybody who uploads stuff on YouTube, the title and the thumbnail are the two most important things above even the content. And they're also the things that give you a headache and just kind of make you want to kill yourself, right? You're supposed to have these like these stupid titles that draw you in. And if you have been like watching the videos, it's like, do I clickbait my titles? Maybe, I don't know. I've just kind of given up on caring, so I title them things that make me laugh to troll myself in the moment. I have a feeling that this comment was actually spurred on by one of the more recent videos. What did I call that? Play guitar like a true hero
while you're friends and family. So here's the thing. All right. If I'm making a video about something specific that I think would make a good lesson, right? Like maybe correcting chord inefficiencies between open chords in the key of G, right? If I named it that, nobody would click on it in the first 30 minutes, right? Maybe some people would be like, oh, that's something I'm interested in. But again, maybe 3%, it'd get a 3% click-through rate, and then YouTube would just bury it and nobody else would see it, right? That's just kind of how this whole thing works, which is so stupid. But that's how it works, you know what I mean? I'm not even complaining about it. But when it comes to making titles, that one specifically was made from a click hole email from a guitar mastery method thing that I've been following. I can't even talk. So I might do a video on this just by itself in the future, because like if you ever sign up for one of these like, oh, give me your email address and I'll give you like a free guitar tip or something. A friend of mine did this, and we've been keeping track of like the emails, and they just get more and more just outrageous about how you should learn guitar to impress your friends and family. And wow, everyone on stage. And it's like, do people actually like think that they want to like, I need to impress my family. I need a hobby that I can impress my family. So yeah, a lot of the times I just kind of title these things to amuse myself. And you know, I guess you have a point that some of them do get clickbaity, but I can't. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Fender just crushed Black Friday. Everybody's going to want one at that price. The Americans should switch to 9-volt. It's an improvement over USB rechargeable in the long run.
So this is in response to the Acoustasonic video I did. They have the new Made in Mexico ones, which have the 9-volt battery instead of the USB charging. I'm conflicted on which one I like more. At first, I like the USB charging more. I still think I prefer USB charging to 9-volt battery. Now, the advantages for 9-volt, if it dies, you can swap it out. With USB charging, you can play it while it's USB charged, and it comes with a pretty long charge. The American ones come with a pretty long USB charging cable that you could potentially play live while it's plugged in to a charging thing. But I feel like the batteries like lasted really long on that. In fact, Syndie has been borrowing my American-made Acoustasonic and gigging with those, and she does like 4-hour gigs a night out here. She's crushing it, by the way. I'll link you to her channel because she's doing such a good job. But yeah, she says that like a single charge on that lasts like 20 hours, which I think is like sufficient. And she knows that because she doesn't recharge it every night, so it actually did die on her once. But yeah, between the American maids and the Mexican maids, I honestly do not tell a difference in the playability. This guitar is awesome. I love gigging with it. We're going to see more probably gig videos of this in the future. But yeah, I don't know which one I prefer, honestly. I still like the idea of USB charging, but you know, you're right. Having a 9-volt in the case is always just an easy way to just swap out, something I've done many times live. So I'm conflicted on which one is actually better, but it is a difference that you might want to consider if you're interested in one of these. So for listening homework, I'm going to throw you to Steel I Span. If you didn't watch the video from yesterday, when me and Andrea were trying out this record player and sampling something from it, we went to a vinyl record store and just got this cheap vinyl album by a band that looked like it could be Celtic because they were having a feast on the cover. And it just ended up being like awesome. So check out Steel I Span. A lot of people in the comments were familiar with them from the 70s. I had no idea this band existed, but they're awesome and they definitely ride. So check that out. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website, or the Patreon, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.